Charlie. And I'd just like to say that I met Charlie a long time ago. He's over a decade sober. Yeah, I'm sure he'll tell you where he's at. He was in East London. I was in West London. I'm still in West London. We became friends. He changed sponsors a short while ago, years now, I think, and he asked me to help him. So I'm doing my best. And when it was my turn, I thought I'm going to ask Charlie. So I'd like to introduce Charlie L to the group. Take it away, Charlie. Do you need anyone to tell you we've got 5 minutes to go or anything?
Please, that would be great.
I'm sure someone will get a 5 minute up to you, or someone will wave. Monica will let you know.
Wave. Yeah, 5 minutes.
Thanks,
The
Monica.
floor is yours, Charlie.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. My name's Charlie. I'm an addict. And it's good to be here. And I'm happy to be part of Cocaine Anonymous today, especially after attending my first UK convention last weekend. And I saw and heard so much while I was there. And I smiled a lot. As you can guess, I wasn't smiling much when I got here. But I'm just going to share. And whatever comes out, comes out. I don't ever plan what I'm going to say. But I do pray before I share. And I just ask that God show me what I can bring rather than what I can take from a meeting. Because I'm a taker, naturally, a taker, not a giver. But over the years, I've learned to give better. So I'm the youngest of 5 children. I grew up in London as a little boy. And when I was 6 years old, we moved to Barnstaple in North Devon, which is a very rural existence. The town's got about 25,000 people. And that was a big change. You know, I was 6 years old. I was in infant school. I was in London. And suddenly I'm transported to the countryside. And I'm in an infant school, a new infant school. And it was a huge change. But it was okay. Everything in the family was okay. And it became an adventure. We stayed in a place in the grounds of a hotel before we actually managed to buy a house. And that was great. It was on the edge of a forest. And my dad taught me how to fish, and it was a wonderful time. So I grew up in the countryside, in the edge of the countryside. My mum and dad, my dad was from Portsmouth. His parents were teachers. My mum was from Wolverhampton. And they met when they were studying in London. So my upbringing was okay. I had a happy upbringing. But I was scared of my dad. My dad was a real authoritarian father. And so I can remember as a child wanting to say things, but he would always close things down. He would always say, we are not going to discuss that further. And I didn't get it as bad as my older brother, by the way. You know, I was always told by my 3 sisters and my brother, you had it easy, because I was the youngest, right? You had it easy. So as I'm growing up, I look back and I think, well, what did I love about growing up? And what I remember at some point in my childhood was I used to get this feeling of excitement. And I don't know why I got it, but it used to come up from my toes and it would go up through my body and I would just buzz. And I have always liked to buzz my whole life. I love stimulants. I want to go faster. I don't want to go slower. If something's not available that makes me go faster, I don't mind taking something that makes me go slower. But my preference is to go quickly. And my nickname as a child was Buzz, because I was pretty lively. You know, I talked a lot. I ran around. I remember loving sweets. Who doesn't love sweets? Come on. I can remember getting a real buzz out of riding my bike. And as I grew up, it was okay. Every child has good and bad memories from childhood, but there was nothing terrible going on. But I do remember around the age of 12 or 13, I started to become much more self-conscious, which is, a usual time to become more self-conscious. So I was at school. School was okay. I didn't work very hard. I've always been a person who would prefer to do the minimum of work and get the maximum of benefit from that. So for some reason throughout my life, I've always expected to do very little and get rewarded, even applauded for that. In fact, I want you to give me stuff, even if I don't do anything. And I've always been like that. Strangely, I've been disappointed because of that attitude, but hey, that's just the way I was. So I go through school. School was okay. I learned how to fight. I remember fighting in school, and that was a buzz, but not one I expected, because to begin with, I was scared. But then when I realized I could fight, that was a buzz as well. Yeah, I remember that. So I get introduced to alcohol. I used to watch my dad cooking right at home, and he used to have a glass of sherry or wine or something, and he would call it the chef's perks. And he would be there, and I'd see him enjoy it. And when my parents had people come round, they'd drink together and they'd get drunk, and I'd see them change. And I'd like be, wow, okay, this is something powerful, there's something going on here. And as a child, I used to think, I'd like to drink. I saw people drinking. So when I got the chance to drink, I liked it. I always liked it. And I can remember at quite an early age wanting another drink. So when I was about 15, I started drinking quite regularly. And we used to get cider and go and play cricket in the park and get drunk and play drunk cricket, which was great fun. I was with my friends. And then other things came in. Weed came in, and then sulfate, and then LSD, and then magic mushrooms, and all sorts of stuff. So, and obviously cigarettes as well. I can remember when I first started smoking cigarettes, got a huge buzz from that. And I loved it. I'm not here because I dislike drugs. I'm here because I fucking love them. Absolutely love them. And I didn't realize that they gave me so much ease and comfort. I just did what I did. But at quite an early stage of my drinking and using, I got the reputation for being greedy, and just going too far, just going too far. And that would extend to my behavior as well. I would not always know when to stop. So, I'd be cheeky, but I'd be too cheeky. I'd be pushy, but I'd be too pushy. I'd just shoot my mouth off, and that was that. But underneath this was an anxiety. And I started to suffer from anxiety when I was about 16, 17. And I didn't even know what it was to begin with, but I knew it was wrong. And someone just said to me, man, you're so uptight. And I was like, okay. And then I had a real serious depression when I was about 19. And it just crept up on me, and I was in it, and I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. So those were just some things that happened. But consistently throughout this time, I'm with my friends. I left college in the middle of my college studies. I left college to play drums in a punk band because I thought that was a good idea. My father was the director of studies of the college that I left, and that was awkward. And I was very fearful of that, because when I told him what I was going to do, I was really shitting myself. And what happened was, he was so lovely about it, which surprised me. And he just said, look, you're going to do whatever you're going to do anyway. So I hope you're okay. But yeah, that's it. I hope you get on okay. And I was just like, wow, okay. Didn't expect that. So I leave college, start playing in a punk band, hanging out with everyone who's just on the dole. We're all smoking dope, drinking, doing all sorts of stuff. And I had a few LSD and magic mushrooms, started taking trips, had a few horrible trips, but it didn't stop me from taking those things. And then we go away for 6 months around Europe. 7 of us living in a bus together, traveled right around Europe, playing music, busking in the streets, playing in bars. And we funded our whole trip around Europe. And it was intense. In a bus together was intense. 7 of us. Yeah. 3 girls and 4 boys. So, yeah, but an amazing trip when I look back on it. And then when I got back to Devon after that, I was like, Devon's too small. I don't want to be here anymore. So I come to London. I sleep on people's sofas. One of my sisters is in London, and she manages to get me some work. So I start working. And I'm a countryside boy. I've really grown up in the countryside. So London is the big, bad city, and I don't know what to make of it. When I first get there, everyone's got like a blank face. And they're like robots, yeah. Everyone's just walking down the street. Nobody says hello. It's really weird, right, for me. But after about 6 months to a year, I'm used to being in London, and I'm having a great time. I start busking at Covent Garden. I start playing the panpipes and bamboo flutes, which I've been doing before. Start busking at Covent Garden, get a band, and I sort of felt like I'd arrived. And I was also introduced to cocaine by my mate Marco, who's a drummer. I was in Camden one night, and he just racked up a line and said, have a go at that. And I was like, saw what he did. I did it. And I was like, yes, that hits the spot. Yes, I like that a lot. And I said, Marco, can I have some more? And he said, no. And I was like, you fucker. What do you mean no? You know, I don't like the word no when I ask people for drugs. You know, that doesn't work for me. It's not good. And I pestered him. I've always been a pest around drugs and drink, you know. And it was difficult because he wouldn't give me any more, but I remembered what it was. And then I remembered I probably know some people who can get hold of this. And I got hold of it, but I was poor. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I remember being on the bus. I just got a tax bill because I've been doing music full time, and I was self-employed as a musician. I just got a tax bill, which I couldn't pay. And I've got about 50 quid left. And I'm on the bus to go and score some cocaine with my last 50 quid that I've got. And I don't know where the next money's coming from, but I'm going to go and score some cocaine. And that really is the story of my using. Because I could always find a way to get some more money. I would beg, I would steal, I would borrow, and I can justify anything. If I want something enough, I can justify anything. Doesn't matter what it is. I will walk around you. I will walk through you. If I want it, I'm going to get it if I can. That way, this way, doesn't matter. So, at this point, I don't even know I've got a problem, right? Other people are seeing that I've got a problem. And then, 1988, got the chance to go to Japan for 6 months, playing with my band. That was amazing. Came back with a lot of money, blew it in 6 months. Lots of parties. Funnily enough, lots of additional friends suddenly because I've got a bit of money and I'm splashing it about and I'm thinking I'm a big man and all of that shit. And I really get into the cocaine and it's great. But then I'm broke again and I owe a tax bill again and I don't know what to do. So I go to mum and dad and ask for money because I can always go to them and they will help me. And then I go to other people as well. I'm beginning to borrow money off other people, something that I wouldn't do before. But as the years go by, I'm beginning to do things that, well, before I'd look at someone else doing that and I'd just think, you dirty bastard, how can you do that? How can you do that? Terrible behavior. But when I start doing it, I'm like, well, it's awkward when I first do it, but then it becomes sort of normal. So what became sort of normal? Well, lying was sort of normal. um, making up stories about what I'd done was sort of normal. I mean, I've always been an expert on things I have no knowledge of. And also, I would have to make up stories. I don't know why. Um, it's almost like part of it was an excitement of having a dirty little secret, because secrets are powerful, you know. And if I'm doing something and I think I'm being really naughty and probably no one knows about it, I get a buzz from that. I get a real buzz from that. But what I don't realize at the same time is that as well as getting a buzz, I've got some shame. I've got some fear about getting found out. I mean, one of my least favorite things in my life is getting caught, right? Don't like getting caught. In fact, I can get caught with my hands in the till and I will say it wasn't me, because I'm like that. Right? I'm like that. I can get caught, bang to rights, and I'll say it wasn't me. So I continue to live my life. I have a series of relationships. Um, Looking back, I think I've always had difficulties with being relaxed and intimate with people and honest with people. And I would often get to a point in relationships where I would be like, I'm going to finish this because I can't handle it. Or I'm going to finish this before she finishes this. Or I just fucking don't know what to do with my feelings with this relationship, so I'm going to end it. Or I'd just be a bit too much. Or I wouldn't be enough. Because, you know, I've always liked my own company, but there's a difference between being solitary and enjoying that and being isolated. And I think I started to be isolated at that point. And I started to like myself less. I wouldn't tell you that, but I started to like myself less, a lot less. And there were lots of reasons for that. I was lying, I was cheating, I was stealing. I would manufacture arguments to get out of the house. By this time, I meet my wife. She's Japanese. We meet at Covent Garden when I'm playing with the band. Our guitarist Alessandro, he chatted her up and her friend and invited them to a gig that we were doing. And I met her at the gig. Beautiful, lovely, lovely, lovely lady. And so we met. She came to England a couple of years later. We start seeing each other regularly. We get engaged. We get married. We start having children. My disease is progressing. I can't stop. I don't want to stop. I'm into whatever I'm into. I mean, my mainstays drug-wise by this point are cocaine, weed, and alcohol. Those were the regulars, right? All the time. But I would take anything, you know. I mean, in some ways, I was a drug snob, right? I would always say about heroin users, dirty bastards, like, you know, taking heroin. Look at them. Or people who took crack. Oh, God, look at those crack users. They're awful, you know, completely forgetting what I'm doing, right? I got myself into some disgusting situations taking drugs, but it's terribly inconvenient to see that. I do not want to see that. I've got a very large carpet in my life, and there's lots of stuff just brushed under it because, you know, I don't want to know about that. I don't need to know. But the problem is, as my using and drinking is progressing, that's coming up again and again and again. So I couldn't continue with the music career and be married and support a family. So I trained as a nurse, worked at the Royal London Hospital, trained there, worked in general and vascular surgery before my drug habit got fully advanced. And I only took coke once on a night shift in charge of a 28-bedded surgical ward, out of my head on cocaine, didn't do it again. But that's because at that time I could control it. But if you fast forward 5, 7 years later, I'm beginning to not control it. And then I'm beginning to use at work. And I'm beginning to use during the week. And I'm beginning to spend more than I've got. But I've always been a spendthrift. I've never been great with money. Never been great with money. But today I'm very, very different. In fact, if anything, I'm even more tight today than I was loose before, right? With money. It's a funny thing that, but so I'm starting to hate myself. I'm starting to think I'm weak. I'm starting to resent the fact that I have to put in so much effort to get the drugs that I need. I'm beginning to get upset and resentful that I have to fulfill all of these normal life responsibilities that most people appear to fulfill reasonably easily. But for me, everything's becoming a chore. But my career is progressing and I retrain and I become an occupational health specialist and I work for the Met Police. Before I invite a police officer in for a consultation, I sniff some cocaine off the table and think that's really funny. And do a health consultation with a police officer. And then I'm out of my head at work and I go out into the car park. I'm surrounded by police people. I think this is fine. It's not a problem, right? It's not a problem. I can justify anything. It's not a problem. But my behavior begins to be a problem. I stay up so late. And when I get into work, I'm pranked. I'm unable really to do my job properly. The cracks are beginning to appear. But I think I'm going to be okay. I can push through. I can make it. Never mind. Just carry on. Just carry on. Because by this time, without knowing it, I have to use. I've lost the power of choice. I don't know when that happened. I crossed a line and it happened. And then it starts progressing further. And then start getting nasty at home. I was never physically violent, but I was verbally horrible a lot of the time. My wife no longer wakes me up herself because I'm so bad. When I wake up, she sends the children to wake me up. And I don't know what you're like after a come down or waking up after being up for a couple of days, but I was horrible to my children. And the promises I made to my wife, to my family, to my children, broken. And so now I hate myself. But you don't know that. And there's another part of me that's very arrogant, because once I get that need to use, I can be destroyed at 8 o'clock in the morning, sweating, going into work, feeling like shit, anxious, paranoid, on the tube. Fuck, another day, fuck. And then I get into work. And then by about between 12 and 2, I'm like, I think I need to call the dealer now, because it's okay. Because everything's forgotten. Because it's going to be okay. I can always find the money. How am I finding the money? Borrowing. I've got loans. I'm not paying the rent or the mortgage, because we've got a part rent, part buy place. I'm lying about all of this, of course. And things are getting worse and worse and worse. I'm working for a huge multinational company. I'm sniffing cocaine at work. I come out of one of the offices and this guy says, "Charlie, can I speak to you?" And we go into a room and he says, "Do you need a mirror?" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Do you need a mirror?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You've got this big white rock of something up in your nostril that I can see. And I just wondered if you needed a mirror." And I'm like, fuck, okay, I'm busted, okay. And I said, "No, I don't need a mirror." The company that I'm working for, they pull me in and they say, "Charlie, we can see you've got a problem. Is there anything you'd like to tell us?" And I'm like, "No, there's nothing I want to tell you." The head of HR is walking down the corridor and she goes, "Hello, Charlie." And I'm like, okay, fuck. So I lose that job, right? Doesn't go well. I lose other jobs. But I'm still determined to get through this, okay? Because it's relentless, right? My ability to reinvent I'm okay on a daily basis is relentless. But I'm getting less and less okay. I'm starting to have some health problems. I mean, obviously, my nose is bleeding on a regular basis, you know, and I'm doing all sorts of sordid shit that I wouldn't, admit to anyone, porn, all sorts of stuff. And then I start going out at all times of the day and night to go and score. So one time my dealer wasn't around, but then he rang me and I was in bed. So I thought, fuck it, right, I've got to go and meet him now. So I meet him in a pub, but I've actually got my dressing gown on, tucked into my trousers, because I'd rushed so quick to go and score that I don't give a fuck, right? And I'm in a pub in the middle of the East End with my dressing gown on the top half, and then my trousers underneath. And people are giving me funny looks, but I don't give a shit. I've got a half a beer, and I'm just drinking that, looking at the guy who's working behind the bar. And I'm like, give me the cocaine. And he kept me waiting. Give me the fucking cocaine. And he gave it to me and I went. I don't know about you, but I always only ever got half a gram or a gram. My dealers would always say to me, Charlie, you should get a lot of this because you're going to come back again and again and again. And I'd always say, no, I won't. I went back again and again and again. I'm incredibly stupid when it comes to drugs, but I don't know it, right? I don't know I've got a problem. So then friends, relatives keep taking me aside. Why don't you stop? If you can't stop for yourself, stop for your fucking family. You're ruining this. What have I got to say to that? What can I say to that? I've got nothing to say to that. What can I say to that? And I hate these people because I don't want to be told the truth. I can't see it. I don't want to see it. Please, just fucking leave me alone. Leave me alone. And I've got that vain hope that one day it's all going to be okay. I don't know when. There's no evidence it's going to be okay. But I feel that one day, magically, something's going to happen. And I'm going to stop. I can't stop. So I get to the point where I want to stop, but I can't stop. And then start sort of trying things. I'd hide my cocaine. I forget where I put it. There would be a big search going on. I'd hide my cocaine somewhere really inconvenient. And then within a half an hour or an hour, I'm back there just using it. I'm doing all sorts of stuff, thinking that I'm going to be okay, but I'm not okay. So I want to stop. And then I really want to stop and I can't. And then I begin to get worried. So I do try some counselling, but I don't tell the counsellor the truth. In fact, the counsellor said to me, why are you so angry with me? Because I was angry, right? I was really fucking angry. And I had no answer for that counsellor. So I didn't really know why I was so angry with him. Honestly, I just thought he was a prick, right? But anyway, so I'm trying to get help, but I'm not being honest about what's going on. And then I have this bright idea, and I write a letter to my whole family saying, you might wonder why I've been so strange. I've got a cocaine problem. I'm going to get it sorted out. And I send this letter to my whole family, leave a letter for my wife to find, because I'm not in a place where I'm going to tell her that face to face. I don't have the courage to do that. And then I still can't stop. So my whole family knows. They knew a lot was wrong anyway, but now they know exactly what's wrong. And now they're watching me and I can't stop. This is not good. It still goes on. It goes on and it goes on and it goes on. I don't know about you. In the end, I was fucking tired. I was really tired. I couldn't stop. So then I really want to stop. And I still can't stop. So I Google what I am looking for and I go to NA, right? Didn't know about CA. knew about AA, but didn't think I had a drink problem. Anyway, so what happens next is I go to an NA meeting. I meet some people from Cocaine Anonymous, and they direct me to a Cocaine Anonymous meeting. I start going to meetings, but I've got no intention of stopping. I really want to stop, and then I really want to stop. But then what happens? Well, the obsession comes in my mind and I'm gone. So I'm in meetings for 2.5 years, being totally dishonest, thinking I'm really clever, and I have no intention of stopping until one day I have this experience. I'm in the garden, my wife's out. I don't think she's coming back for a long time, and I'm smoking a joint. She comes out of the back door. She's not supposed to be home early, and I'm smoking a joint. She looked at me, and she looked at me with disgust and frustration and hopelessness. She was always looking at me with disgust and hopelessness and frustration. But this particular day, it got me. And she said, "You're smoking that dirty shit." And I said, "No, I'm not. I've got a joint of skunk in my hand. It smells quite strong." But anyway, I denied it. But when she looked at me, something broke inside me. And after that point, I realized I was going to do the steps. I knew all about the steps by then. I've been in recovery for 2.5 years. But it was a moment of total defeat, and that's what I needed to do this. So I don't know what your experience of recovery has been, but I've been looked after, and I was looked after. People welcomed me. People took me to meetings. They left me alone when I was a newcomer, but they were basically friendly. And they said, "Come here, Charlie. You know, you seem to have the same problem we've got. There is a solution here." But they left me alone because they knew that I'm like them. And what that means for me is that unless I'm ready to do this, whatever I tell you, I've got no intention of doing this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to pretend to do this. I'm going to appear to do this, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to have this real quiet voice in the back of my mind that just says, "Fuck that." And I'm not going to do it. But I had this experience and I started going through the steps. And step one hurts. It's supposed to hurt. I see myself in the cold light of day. And it was horrible, and it needed to be horrible because I was broken. And then as I started to go further through the steps, I started to get more hope. And at about 30 days, I was outside a meeting in East London, and a police car pulled up in front of me. They all got out, and I wasn't scared. And I just thought, fucking hell, something's happening here. And then I realized I hadn't needed to use 30 days. I had commitments throughout this time when I was being dishonest. And service is necessary. And also service is giving back what was freely given to me. And so I was mad, you know, first year at least in recovery. Yeah, I was, and I really didn't want to interact with too many people, you know. But there's something here that's bigger than us. And that's what I became part of because I wanted to be part of it. But I needed the process of the steps to break me open. And the whole idea of God scared the shit out of me because I've always been a very naughty boy. And I thought, if God finds out where I am, he's just going to send this bolt of lightning and just incinerate me because I've been so bad. And I grew up as a child hearing priests talk about hellfire and damnation. I knew where I was going, right? But I was able to develop a new concept of God and start to pray and have an experience of prayer that helped me. And the serenity prayer, how beautiful is the serenity prayer? everything in 3 sentences. Wow. So I start going through the steps and I start having a spiritual experience. And as this goes on, I'm beginning to feel more and I get relief. That's what I get. But when I particularly at step 5 and step 9, I felt so great. And then when I completed the steps, I went through that evangelistic phase where I wanted to sponsor the world. And the world did not want me to sponsor them because I'm just a bit too much, right? And that went on for a number of months. And then suddenly everything goes flat. Don't like meetings anymore. I don't like the people in the meetings. What's the point of all this recovery shit? Then I learned what recovery is. Because whatever the weather is doing, it might be raining, there might be sunshine. I need to be consistent in my recovery. And that's what I've learned. I need to do enough of this, enough of the time. Otherwise, I will use and drink. So I either do this, which is recovery, or I do that, I use and drink. It's really that simple. However, it's not simple because I have a mental illness and I have a mind that will generate all sorts of confidence about how much I need to do and how much I can miss out. So the definition of to balk is to stubbornly refuse to move or act. In my recovery, it's been consistently, I've had periods where I've balked. And, you know, why should I look at something in myself that I think is good for me, right? Or that I like? That's what I keep telling myself until it gets so painful that I have to tell someone. Because today in recovery, I've got as much chance of killing myself as I have to drink and use because of the immense tension that can build up inside me just because I'm not being honest or getting to a point where something is revealed to me. But there's another aspect to recovery, which is I can have long periods of time where I'm doing everything I should in recovery, but I still feel like shit. Welcome to recovery is all I can say to you, because it's just like that sometimes. But what I now know is that will pass. But I have to give you spiritual license to say to me, Charlie, you're particularly full of shit today. What are you not doing? Because the day will come. Because I will have reversed back through the steps far enough to not know I'm ill. Because that will happen to me from time to time. So I have friends around me that gently guide me by the arm. Say, okay, man, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing's going on, I'm fine. And they're like, really? Okay, you think that's fine, do you? And then I'm like, okay, then. It's always grudging, but that's okay. You know, it's okay. I've got to talk about fun in recovery because there's a lot to be had. When I first got here, I thought it was the end of everything. I thought not being able to use and drink was a fucking disaster. It's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And not only the best thing for me, the best thing for my friends, the best thing for my family, the best thing for my work colleagues, the best thing for anyone I will come into contact with. Because if I just step out of the way and allow that spirit of goodness to come through me, great things happen. And I don't have to be as worried about life as I was. I still get worried about life on quite a regular basis. But I've got some tools that help me to deal with that some of the time, and some of the time they don't work, and that's fine. Because if I put conditions on my recovery is not going to work. Sometimes all I've got is, I don't know. I don't know. That's all I've got. Because if you see me being particularly certain about anything, please just take me aside quietly and say, what's going on with you? Because if I'm really certain, that's really dangerous. because I'm really full of bright ideas and enthusiasm, and a lot of it is total rubbish. But that's okay. That's going to be my experience, because I'm not the best judge, right? However, having said that, I've now got a different level of responsibility in my life. I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for my own recovery. I'm not responsible for you or your recovery. I'm only responsible for my recovery. So, you know, as Nick often says, there's two short business. There's my business and none of my fucking business. But I still get very tempted to get involved in other people's business. And, you know, I try not to, is what I would say to you. My recovery's not been a steady thing. My recovery has been up and down, in and out, round and round, and I can't really see it naturally being any other way. You know, if you ever meet someone with perfect recovery, give them a wide berth. That's what Michael says, you know, because it ain't like that. And that's okay, because if I'm not right one day and you're okay, you're going to help me. But if you're not right one day and I'm okay, I'm going to help you. That's the way it works. I don't know who's going to help me, because I don't know how I'm going to help anyone else. I just need to continue to do this. And I need to do this however I feel. I need to continue to do recovery however I feel. But the problem is my feelings will still lead me by the nose on a regular basis. And if it's not the obvious stuff, it will be the less obvious stuff. I've still got a very vibrant fantasy life. Fucking hell, yeah. You know, and I need to pray and meditate in the morning because I wake up with a busy mind often. But that's okay. I've got things that I can do. And I'm not always going to be able to be effective. Sometimes I have to realize that there's nothing I need to say. I just need to stay quiet, because I've begun to understand the benefit of listening, and also the benefit of saying I don't know. Because if I say that, someone might tell me something I don't know. But if I think I know everything, well, I'm not going to learn much. It's good here. That's what I've come to experience. It's good here. And you know, the risk of me using and drinking again is there. That's very real. I'm not one of these people who will say, I'll never use and drink again, because I don't know. But if I continue to do this on a daily basis, I'm not going to use and drink again, because that's a promise that's, you know, been real for me since July the 7th, 2009. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But I'm not always grateful, you know. I have to tell people some days, you know, no, I can't do a gratitude list. I haven't got an ounce of gratitude in me. I'm not always going to be okay. It's okay to not be okay. But what I've learned is that we do this. It's not me. We do this. And you know what? I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Perfect timing as well.